Okay, I guess we are live now. So, hello everybody, it's me Sadahat from Faisalabad Shapers, and I am here again with another episode of our Hub Talks. So, today we have an amazing woman with us, Marshall Vagar. Marshall, thank you so much for joining me today. So, today's topic is about women in business, especially who belong to Pakistani background, and a bit
Yes.
of women empowerment. So, Marshall, she is the co-founder and COO of the Tempest. It's a blog. And apart from that, she was featured on Forbes in 2019 on 30 and the 30 Women. And she has been a couple of times the speaker at TEDx Talks, right? So is there
Yeah.
something I missed, Marshall? You can add this.
One thing, so we're not a blog, we're a women's media company. That's what the Tempest is.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. hmm Yeah,
Okay.
that's the only
So
thing. Yeah.
yeah. So today we will, like I said, talk about women and business and like how we can encourage young women, especially. So Marshall, at this, like I would first like know how you have been doing during the quarantine because we have done a couple videos about quarantine and how people are actually combating the situation. So would you like to share something?
Yeah, I mean, it's been really hard. It's been really, really difficult for me because I think just mentally, like mental health wise, I was really struggling. And I think for 2 months, 2 to 3 months, I think I couldn't like I was just in a bad place, and I normally the things that I generally love to do, I was struggling to do. Like getting up in the morning and doing anything was such a big struggle, right? So, I mean, I love reading. I love doing different things, and so I think the reading part was the one that really got me the most because I'm a bibliophile. Like I love books so much. I love reading all the time, and I enjoy watching stuff. But I think the only thing that I would pick up these books and I couldn't get past like a chapter, and it was such a struggle.
Mm-hmm.
And then I felt really bad because I thought I constantly want to learn stuff and I can't do it. So I was hard on myself. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so personally, it was really difficult. And a lot of the plans, because I think in January, like I started taking precautions in February
Yeah.
when things started getting serious before there was a lockdown or a curfew, because I'm in Dubai right now. And the government
Mm-hmm.
was very responsible with how they took precautions, and everything was shut down. Like we had a lockdown, so people were serious about it. And this was the best decision because, we're all safe, thankfully, alhamdulillah, like that's really good. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but from a business point of view, things got very difficult because
Mm-hmm.
and I think every business owner has suffered in some way or the other, because in January it seemed like we were going to have our best quarter to date, and then
Mm-hmm.
February happened, and then March happened, and then things went from good to okay to bad to really really bad. And so it was difficult to wrap my head around it and to process that this is not a short-term thing. This is going to have
Mm-hmm.
long-lasting changes, and you have to be mentally prepped for that. So yeah, it was really difficult.
Yeah, sure. I definitely can agree with you. It's just something completely new. I mean, like we have a lot of mediums like, the internet or some social media platforms that we are using right now, and that's the only way we are connecting right now to people. So I think we have the advantage of these things. But on the other hand, like individually, I think we all are a bit struggling right now, like
Hmm.
with the whole
Yeah.
situation. Like I, as a student, was like so unsure about like what I'm gonna do, in the future, like my exams were due and all that stuff. So I was a bit struggling too. So yeah, I can definitely agree with you on this point. So yeah, moving on to the business, like to the work life, like how much, what kind of impact did it had on you, like regarding your work, and how are you like handling the whole situation right now?
I mean, so we've been a remote company from 2016. So we're used to kind of being all across the world and dispersed, and all of that is very normal for us. What's not
Mm-hmm.
normal, obviously, is not being able to step out, right? Because that's what COVID did the first couple of months.
Yeah.
And it took a toll on everybody, I think. So, everyone was trying to stay safe, I hope, and be careful and stuff. But obviously, that has an impact. And when you're home and when you don't have a choice, I think that's when it can be
Mm-hmm.
really difficult, right?
Exactly.
From the business point of view, I think there were a lot of things that happened. So a lot of our business side of things is like business to business, right? It's B2B, and so the generally the advertising budgets are some of the first things that take a cut, right? And so
Mhm.
because we rely on advertising and that was our main form of revenue, we took a big hit.
Mhm.
And it was really difficult. So what we had to do was actually we had to pivot. And we kind of sat down. So me and my co-founder and our team, we sat together and we thought, what is the best way that we can come out of this in a way where we're back in the game and we can continue to thrive and grow and all of that stuff, right? And we thought we want to be sustainable and then we want to make sure we're doing that. So we are working on a product and we're going to launch it. So it's a community platform that we're going to be launching, and we've actually
Mhm.
pivoted a bit of our business model where we do have advertising, of course, and we can work with
Mhm.
companies, but it's not going to be the main source of revenue because we don't want to be affected, and you know things have just changed, and we want to be as self-sustainable as possible. So that's the big change that we had. um and yeah, we tried to, I mean, you know, honestly, from a remote point of view, we tried to be there for our team. But I think just individually, each of us have just been struggling in different capacities, so we're aware of that, and you know, we're just being human in that perspective.
Okay. Okay, I can understand. So, like, we talked a bit about the COVID situation we all are dealing with right now. So, apart from this, you are the COO of the Tempest right now. So, tell me where
Mhm.
your journey started. Like, would you like to share how it began and like how your journey was? Like, just share everything with us. We would like to know.
Yeah, sure. So I have a tech background. I had no business being in media, and I ended up in
Mhm.
media. And I'll tell you how. So I grew up believing that my voice didn't matter, and I grew up
Mhm.
believing that no matter what I grew up believing that, you know, my words that would not have an impact.
Mhm.
And that was because of the part of the world that I grew up in, but also because I was an expat kid. And so it
Mhm.
wasn't until much later. And so all my life, even when I looked at the media that I was consuming, there was no representation, right? I never saw a movie or a show where I felt like, okay, like I can relate, right, to the
Yeah.
characters or
Mhm.
the people, and things were just different. And so when I read articles on the Tempest years and years ago, well, not years and years ago, but back in 2016, this was the summer, a few months after the Tempest had launched as the Tempest, I fell in love with it. And I read article after article after article. I spent like just hours binge reading the pieces on the website, and I thought, like, I love this platform. I have
Mhm.
never seen content like this before, and I want to be part of it somehow. So I joined as a guest contributor and a staff writer. And I used to write tech articles and articles about third culture experiences, and
Mhm.
obviously about like my experiences, and that's how I started off. And then I started working with the founder and CEO Leila, who started the Tempest and who really has been
Mhm.
like the sort of amazing person behind this platform, right? So once I started working with her, we gelled well together, and I would recommend and suggest a lot of different things, and I sort of became indispensable to the startup in a way until she asked me to
Mhm.
join. Um,
Okay.
and I started with the program that is now the accelerator program. So this is one of the first the earlier cohorts that we had with the program. And what
Mhm.
I joined in was because I thought, okay, I already have tech experience and I am going to be working in tech anyway. So let me experience media because I want to, one, work for this company that I really love, and two, I want to
Mhm.
get experience in the media industry, and I want to write because I love writing. I've always loved writing since I was a kid, and I
Mhm.
thought, you know, let me get that experience, and so I started working, and then I was part of that program, and it changed my life,
Mhm.
and then that's why I always recommend it. We have our new cohort coming up in September. We have our applications open for that, but we take a chance on people who may not be from the media industry. If I like, realistically, because I didn't have a traditional like media degree or journalism degree, I shouldn't be in this space, right? But at the Tempest, we have this core belief that regardless of your background and your experiences, that if you have a voice, you matter. And obviously we have editorial standards and guidelines, right? But at the same time, you can write and share your perspectives, and we believe in that, and we
Mhm.
want to see that world where everyone has a voice in their, you know, they're part of the conversation. So that's how I started. And so initially I joined as a CTO. So this was in like start of 2017, right when the year started, because end of 2016, Leila asked me to join. So I joined, and
Mm-hmm.
then I brought the Tempest from the US to the Middle East because I'm based in the UAE, and we had a huge number of like growing readers in the UAE and in Saudi Arabia and in the Gulf region and in South Asia as well. And we thought, okay, the numbers are growing. Nobody does content the way we're doing it. It makes sense to have an office here and to see if it makes
Mm-hmm.
business sense to have presence here. So we did that. And then I transitioned from becoming a CTO to a COO. I switched to operations because as a co-founder, my responsibilities and the work that I was doing completely changed. And my
Yeah.
role became less technical and more operational. I got involved in the
Mm-hmm.
business side of things, and I've at this point probably worked in almost every department in the company. And so that, it was a very different journey after the office here opened up and everything else changed.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. Yeah, let me tell you, actually, the first time I heard of the Tempest was I was watching a podcast by Junaid Akram, and you were in it actually, and you were telling about like the Tempest and your journey and everything. And then when I started reading like the articles, it was just like you told, I just read again and again, and the next article and the next
Yeah,
article. It was
I love
amazing.
that. I love that.
Yeah, and right now, like even though in this current situation, there are so many people reflecting so many things in the articles that I could relate to, and I felt actually good that there are actually people who are feeling me. So I think that's an amazing part of the campus, yeah. And the fellowship program you were talking about, it's amazing opportunity too, because I feel like there are so many people who want to switch fields but can't because they are worried about their degrees or they don't have the experience, and because that's are mostly those are the things that matter the most. So I feel that's an amazing thing to offer such a program. And
Yeah, it's the media accelerator, and it's amazing. I mean, I encourage everybody to join it. We've got 8 different tracks, and it can be life changing.
yeah, definitely. So moving on to the conversation, you said you changed from the technology field to the media field and with no complete idea. Like, what kind of obstacles did you have faced while you were like changing the whole field?
So I had worked in media in terms of I had started a student-run publication at my university, right? And we would
Mm-hmm.
cover events and stuff. So I knew that side. And after joining the program, I was able to understand the ins and outs of what a media company meant. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but in terms of challenges, well, the first is I'm an introvert, right? So being the
Yeah.
face of a public company can be challenging if you are an introvert. And I really struggled with that part because I used to be very private. I had private accounts. I did not believe in having public accounts, and I was very um, guarded in what I put out. Like that was scary to me. Having public accounts was just very, it felt like an invasion of privacy. And over time, and I will credit my co-founder for this because she really like encouraged me to start sharing my experiences and to start having a public platform, and she really pushed me to kind of go out there. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's how I started. And I remember before, like even speaking at events and sharing my experiences, I didn't think I had any right to be on stage, and I didn't think I
Mm-hmm.
had the credibility, and it was very nerve wracking at first. Um, and then it slowly went from there, and I still get nervous before public sessions and events and stuff. Like if I'm on stage, I'm so nervous, and I guess
Mm-hmm.
now I've embraced it. Like I know I'm gonna get nervous, but it's okay, and I'm still learning how to kind of do better. But that was one of the biggest challenges. The other
Yeah.
challenge was obviously the financial aspect. So I didn't, when you work for a startup and if you are a co-founder, or if you're even part of the team, I think there's a very different experience that you might have. And I didn't know that, and I wasn't prepared. So it wasn't
Mm-hmm.
until things got bad that I kind of had to learn it the hard way.
Mm-hmm.
And that was definitely difficult for me because um, you know realizing that you have bills to pay and you need to pay your rent, and your rent is due in a few days, and knowing that you don't have the means and you don't want to ask, like it can be a really bad situation to be
Mm-hmm.
in. So that was really difficult, and over the years I've realized like we've had some of the toughest times, but obviously I've also learned to kind of brace the storm, so
Mm-hmm.
that was the other part. And then learning to grow, I think, constantly, because the other part of it is this is such a quick paced and fast paced industry. And media is it's a very quick, yeah, things happen by the second, by the minute. Things are changing. You need to have your pulse
Yeah.
on what's happening, and you need to be aware, right? So I can't afford to not know what's going on. I need to know at all times, and for that, I constantly transition because I'm also a believer of always having time and boundaries and all of that, right? But what I've realized is that this is part of my job, to be online and to kind of be out there. And unless I'm not, I should not expect other people to as well, right? So that was the other part. And I think media and tech are very different. Media is very different, and I think with the kind of content that Tempest does is also very unorthodox. It's very, nothing is taboo. You can speak about and write about anything, and I think that is a different mindset. I didn't grow up in a part of the world where I thought that was okay, and I think I've always, I think it comes with just, growing up. You're told to kind of not be too much out there. I don't know how to explain it in the right words. I'm probably not articulating it the best way right now, but obviously, like, that was a big thing. And so even getting my family to be okay with me being in the media space was like, it took work. I had to get them to agree, because at first they were like, you're going to work in media, and they didn't necessarily think about media in the best way in terms of, and the other part of it was, they were like, you spent 4 years studying computing security, and now you want to completely disregard that and be in a very different industry. And honestly, like, I don't think I would have changed my decision. Of course, if I knew challenges, maybe, I don't know, things could be different. But yeah, those were just a few of the challenges.
Okay, great. So, like, for people who want or are looking forward to change like their fields, like I can talk about myself. I am an ACCA student, so I'm studying accounting and finance. But like, I'm just like going towards another complete, opposite direction right now. So, like you said, you had issues with the family. Like I am also facing right now issues, but like it's a bit more calm because they know it's currently it's quarantine, it's COVID-19. You have nothing to do, so you can do whatever you want to do. So, how would you encourage like young people who are like who want to change their fields, but like there are some sort of obstacles?
So I think this is a general question. I think you know your situation best, right? In terms of your finances and can you afford to. I'm not going to say just do what you want, because I don't know your situation and I don't know the specifics of it, right? If you have responsibilities and if you know that you need to take care of certain responsibilities, especially financially, my suggestion is, like, kind of take it one step at a time, right? So use your weekends, use your after work hours to work on whatever you're passionate about, and get to learn as much as you can about this industry and this space. So meet other people from this space, talk to other people, learn their experiences, and get to know it before you make that jump, right? And be prepared. And I would say, if you can, like, if you can afford to, save up a bit in case things don't, because anything takes time, right? If you're going from, like, for example, accounting to design, right? It takes time to, one, make a living out of that, right? And two,
Exactly.
like, it takes experience as well. And it also depends on what part of design, and in becoming specific takes time, right? So things always look greener on the other side. It might seem amazing until you're in it and you realize, okay, this is difficult, and I have to. So I would say start off one bit at a time, but if you can afford to kind of go all in, go for it. And there are two things that can happen. One, you can realize you love it and this is what you want to do, or you might realize this is not for you, and that's
Yeah.
okay. It I don't know why we think like we need to succeed at whatever we do. Sometimes it's just about learning, and I think until you try, you're not going to know, right? So you might just get your answer by doing that. So I think if it's what you really want to do, give yourself that chance and opportunity, and see where it takes you.
Well, yeah, definitely. I would agree with you on this part because, one decision can change everything, and it's just about like trying. Everyone failed at some point, at some stage of their life, so it's okay. We just have to move on. That's the most important part. So yeah. So talking
And
about
growing,
women,
yeah. I
yeah.
mean, growing as well. That's one thing, is, try to whatever you do, try to do it very well. That's that
Mm-hmm.
one thing I think maybe that we don't emphasize on as much. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and not in a way where it stops you from moving forward, but try to
Mm-hmm.
really dig deep and learn everything you can about what you're trying to do. I don't know if you can
Mm-hmm.
learn everything, but try to learn as much as you can and try to constantly improve yourself over time, right? Your work, you should see a change and an improvement in your work ethic, in the way you think about your work, like
Mm-hmm.
say 4 weeks from now, 8 weeks from now. There should constantly be you should want to grow and you should want
Mm-hmm.
to evolve. I think that is how, especially in terms of design, like that is how it happens, right? Like you experience things and things change and you're kind of working on it yourself. So it's going to be a journey, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Marshall, someone asked, like Rabia Khan, she asked, how should we react to unfavorable conditions? So, what's your response to this?
Unfavorable conditions at work.
I guess she means at home, maybe, like from family or
Okay.
both. Like you can give both answers, like to home and to family, to work. Sorry.
Okay, so at work, it depends on what kind of unfavorable conditions there are, right? It's not easy to work in a difficult work environment,
Mm-hmm.
and it can take a big mental toll. But like I said, sometimes you need that job and you need to get your salary and you need to pay your bills and so on and
Exactly.
so forth, right? So, um, if you're in a situation where you can change and look for start looking for other opportunities and think about
Mm-hmm.
how you can make your resume so great that you'll be the best candidate for that job. And job search just take time, right? So if you're at a point where things are so difficult that you cannot function and cope, I mean, and if it's so severe that you really cannot handle things, I would suggest leaving. But again, that takes privilege, right? That's assuming that you can. If you can't, which is usually the case with most of us, I would say one, try to see if there's something you can change about it. Does that mean having a
Mm-hmm.
conversation? Does that
Mm-hmm.
mean, discussing whatever it is that you're facing with the leadership in your company? Like look at the company culture, look at, can things be changed
Mm-hmm.
internally? And that can take time and it is difficult, right? So try to understand how that can work. um, if you do that and things still don't change, I would also say start looking and try to connect with other people and try to look for different opportunities and see where you can make your next career move. um,
Mm-hmm.
and I would suggest that would be the second thing. The third thing, if you can't leave your job, if things aren't changing internally and you still need to keep your job, um,
Mm-hmm.
try to create a work environment at home where when you step out and you're at home, mentally you're at peace. So whether that's working with your family and your friends, scheduling time in a way where you have conversations, you can
Mm-hmm.
detox mentally, you have to be at peace. You have
Mm-hmm.
to find peace somewhere. And if work is really difficult, when you come home and it's already stressful, it becomes really difficult. So I think it's really important to create space and take care of yourself. And whatever that means, maybe it means taking an hour to paint because that's therapeutic. Maybe it means writing.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it means speaking to a friend. Maybe it means spending time with your family. Whatever it is, that's up to you. Um, in terms of your home, it depends on what the situation is, right? I think if you mean like with your parents, like
Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes it can take time to get them on board with certain ideas and certain decisions you want to make. And I
Yeah.
do think a lot of our parents come from a generation where, you know, we are privileged, and some of us, not all of us, but some of us are privileged where we have an education and we can kind of decide some things in our life, right? I think our
Exactly.
parents maybe didn't get to decide everything that they wanted to do, and they had different
Yeah.
priorities, and the way that we think it's different, right? And I'm speaking about like experiences that I know of my friends and people around me, and obviously I read pieces on the Tempest and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and again, speaking to different people from different areas and obviously different sides of obviously Pakistan as well. And I think one thing I've realized is it can take time. And if you're the
Mm-hmm.
first, it's always more difficult. If there are other
Mm-hmm.
women who have done this in your family before, it will be easier for you. Like with my sister, it was easier because I had already kind of paved that way. So if you're the first, it will be difficult. And that's why it's important that you do it because it
Mm-hmm.
has to start somewhere, and it's
Yeah.
not going to be easy, so you start bit by bit, right? And sometimes that means having disagreements. It means being on opposite ends in terms of how you think, right? um,
Mm-hmm.
but at the end of it, I think sometimes it's about staying determined and persistent. um, and that can work sometimes, but other times it's about making them realize how important this is even for them and for your family, right? So it just depends on, like, you have I guess if you're more specific, I could maybe help with a certain part of the answer. But I know with my parents, like when it came to, even like,
Mm-hmm.
it took them time to even understand what being an entrepreneur meant, because a lot, like,
Mm-hmm.
every now and then, especially when financially it was tough for me, they would ask me, like, why don't you get a proper job, or why don't you apply
Mm-hmm.
to, like, you can get a good job in tech, and they wouldn't understand
Mm-hmm.
why I would do this, especially because finances were so tough. So I had to really make them understand, and sometimes it meant I didn't win in the, not win, but like sometimes they didn't get what I meant. It took them like
Mm-hmm.
years, and they still
Right.
sometimes struggle. And
Mm-hmm.
they still will ask me, like, are you sure you want to do this, right? So as parents, they care about me and they obviously want what's best for me, but I also know that I see a certain path for myself and I want to be able to continue on that. So sometimes it meant just, just crying and just being frustrated at the fact that they couldn't understand me. Sometimes it meant that they were willing to listen. So it will be different things at different times. But yeah, I guess that's all I can say about that.
Yeah,
It's sometimes it
definitely
just
agree.
sucks though. Like sometimes it
Yeah,
just sucks. And I think that's just the truth.
definitely. Yeah, I feel like I can completely agree with you, especially on the point that our parents belong to a whole another generation, and we have so much more like mediums and so much more ways and opportunities, and they don't have them at their time. So it's strange for them, it's something new for them. Obviously, it's our responsibility to explain to them, but like somehow connecting on the same level is due to those things, those factors not possible all the time. So yeah, definitely. Um, Masha, like, how is it like for you working as a Pakistani in this field, like as an entrepreneur, as a CEO? Like, how is it for you as a Pakistani
It hasn't been easy. I can tell you that.
woman?
um, I still get questions about, I mean, it was worse earlier on. I think it's easier
Hmm.
now. Part of it is
Hmm.
because I kind of don't care. Um, my first couple of years, I got some horrible, like, people have said the ridiculous things you would not believe. Like, some people were, a lot of people have also asked me questions like, um, you know, you're from a Pakistani family, so, and you are Pakistani, so how is your family allowing you to do this? Or how are you living on your own? And how are you, like, that's very different. And
Hmm.
all kinds of questions. Some are from curiosity, some come from stereotypes. Um,
Hmm.
Others have been a little bit more racist, I think. Some people have
Yeah.
straight up told me, you will never make it in this industry because you're young, you're a woman, and again, you're Pakistani. Like, this is a bad combination in the media industry. Um,
Hmm.
and and I think it's not been the easiest, I guess, because people always, not always, but for quite a bit of time, there were people who would bring the conversation back to me being Muslim and me being Pakistani. Like, they would constantly call the Tempest a Muslim women's website or a Muslim Pakistani website, or say that this was more for Asian content, and I couldn't understand why, because
Hmm.
and it was because I'm Muslim and my co-founder is Muslim, and they would look at how there's a lot of different people on the team, and that's why they would say that. And I think that was difficult because we're a company by women for women. That means women from all around the world. Like, this is a platform for
Hmm.
everybody. It's not just for
Yeah.
Muslims or non-Muslims, or even if you're, regardless of where you're from. Like, again, there should be no limitation, and the content isn't like that. Like, the problem is, for a lot of people, for some people, our content is too progressive and too
Hmm.
liberal, and for a lot of
Okay.
people it's not enough. Like, there will always be some part, or someone
Hmm.
who'll have their opinions, right? um
Hmm.
but yeah, me being brown has been difficult. And other times I get statements like, oh, you speak very well, or you have a good accent, or you speak English very well, and
Hmm.
how's that? And I think I would get offended before.
Hmm.
Now I don't, because I think sometimes people just don't understand. And I think it depends on how I'm feeling as well. If I have time and energy in my head and the mental space to talk about this and have a conversation, I will. Other times I just say, what do you mean? Because I
Hmm.
want to ask them what they really mean. What they're saying is, if I'm a Pakistani, I shouldn't sound the way that I do. And I realize there's a lot of privilege I have when I say that, because I realize maybe if things were different, like, I have the education that I do, and I've had experiences that have made me who I am. If I didn't have these, maybe I wouldn't be where I am. Everything plays a
Exactly.
part in your life. So there is that part, but I think there's always something or the other that comes up. And I guess maybe sometimes it's just a part of your journey. So
Okay. Yeah, there's definitely still struggle, and yeah, we have to combat it. So, regarding Pakistani women, young girls, Pakistani young girls, like the most issue for Pakistani girls living in Pakistan is they can't be working at the closed space, where male and females are working together, or they can't go out like for such a long period of time for working in the office or some stuff like this. So, what kind of opportunities would you suggest to those women to like avail to get over the situation, like and get success and build a career on those bases?
okay, I think there are a few suggestions that I have. One of them
Mm-hmm.
is there are now startups that are focusing on freelance work.
Mm-hmm.
That's one area people can look at for different industries. And now that
Mm-hmm.
after COVID, people are comfortable with remote working. What is remote
Exactly.
working? It means working from anywhere in the world.
Mm-hmm.
One thing you have to be careful about is there are global opportunities, but sometimes time zones, right? Um, so think about that. Think about which time zone you're okay working with, and then kind of think about that perspective, because there are opportunities, and I think it's just about um, well, right now things have changed a little bit because of COVID. A lot of companies have suffered,
Yeah.
and it is a bad time to be looking for a job. That's just the reality of things. But what I can suggest is there are startups working on this. So Sehat Kahani is one based in Pakistan, and this is for doctors who want to practice um, medicine and who want to work while being at home. So this
Mm-hmm.
startup is specifically for the doctors and the women doctors, I think, who have not been able to work after getting married. So
Mm-hmm.
this is an amazing startup. It was started by two female founders in Pakistan. They're amazing. And I think that's one option. And we see this happen every year, right? Where there are all these doctors who can't practice because and I there's two things. One, things need to change. Families, husbands, your in-laws, they need to start changing how they think. While
Yeah.
that's happening, here are the opportunities. So this is one. Others, I think anything in the writing, the design space, I think content writing is a huge one. In tech, there's front end, back end development. Like every industry has bits of remote working. I think it's about figuring it out. I know a couple of websites that always have remote opportunities. There's Remote, there is Angel List. These are a little bit more US focused. There's Indeed. And now if you look for remote work opportunities, I think there's a higher chance. So I think that's one
Mm-hmm.
part of it. But I also want to say the the market is like there's a lot of competition.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
you have to work on being better and better and better, right? You
Mm-hmm.
don't always get opportunities handed to you on a plate. If you get your opportunities on your first shot, that's amazing. But that means you're part of
Mm-hmm.
a small percentage. Most people, it takes them, sometimes even like hundreds of tries before they get opportunities, right? So you have to be one, constantly work on getting better, two,
Yeah.
invest in yourself in terms of working to improve your skills in whichever area you want these opportunities in, and I think three, be proactive. So don't just apply to different positions, but I would say start um, networking with people who you can learn from. So attend
Mm-hmm.
webinars, attend these Zoom conferences, attend different areas where you can learn about these industries and listen to the people talking, listen to what they're saying, and and
Mm-hmm.
and learn from that. And maybe you can write to these people later on, like after that Junaid Akram interview, sorry, not interview, the podcast that we did. I got so many people messaging me, and I tried to respond and help out a lot of people. But the thing is, some of them didn't even listen to the proper thing, because what I said was, when you ping someone, be specific about what you want help with, do your homework,
Mm-hmm.
don't expect the other person to do your work for you, right? So
Mm-hmm.
some of them literally started from the very minimum basics, right? They would ask me questions that they can find answers to online. But there were some people who were very well prepped. They're like, this is what I'm doing. This is how I would like your help. And they were very respectful. So a lot of those I ended up having calls with. And every month I take out a few hours to have these mentoring calls with people, right? Based on who it is and stuff. And so a lot of them ended up doing these things and it worked out and that was the best part. And I wish more women did that because I want to be able to see more independent women. I want to see stronger women succeeding. Unfortunately, or I'm not going to say unfortunately, but honestly, there were more men who reached out than women did. And in my heart, I was really wishing that more women would, because honestly, I want to see this. I want to see more empowered women, and I want to see, women succeed, and I want to be able to help them out. That's just something I'm very passionate about. So, yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, I want to tell the people who are watching right now, like I was one of the people who reached out to Marsha, like after watching the podcast, and she told me actually, I told her about like how I am getting into graphic designing and like into illustrating, and she told me that I should go for courses and get more technical skills, and I did it, and I feel like I'm doing great, and thank you, Marsha, for this. Like it really helped me out. So yeah, I'm really thankful for this. So at the very end, I think, yeah, we are reaching to the end. Like, Marshall, is there one thing you would like to suggest to the young women of Pakistan, what they can do and how they can actually take action in shaping their own future?
Um, and before I get into that, I want to say, I mean, I think full credit to you for making the effort, learning, and being proactive. Like I've seen your designs evolve. You should tell everyone your
Thank you.
Instagram account so they can see the work that you do. I know you send me your posts every now and then, and I think you're doing fantastic. And I've seen the
Thank
change
you
and
so
even
much.
how you think. There's a stronger point of view in your designs and in what you're working on over time, and that's been amazing to kind of see from afar. Um, but
Thank
I
you so
guess in
much.
terms of it, yeah, of course. And in terms of advice, I'll give you the advice that I wish I had gotten way earlier on,
Mm-hmm.
which is, you know, work on becoming financially independent. You don't have
Mm-hmm.
to rely on anybody to for anything. That's the point you want to get
Mm-hmm.
at, or try to aim for that. That means working. If you have been lucky enough to have a college degree, you already have way more than millions of people, right? So
Mm-hmm.
so think about getting a job. Look at internships and look at
Mm-hmm.
opportunities and try to get a foot somewhere. Until you get experience, you won't get a job. So that degree that you have, if you haven't worked for a while, it will be difficult for you to get an opportunity when you need it. I know a lot of girls who got the degree, but then now they're like, oh, if we need to, we can get a job. But I say, this is good for you. If you are independent, even after you get married, if that's your goal and whatever, you don't have to rely on people to get you what you want. Be your own. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
think about your own stuff, and when you start working, learn financial education. That is super important. Like, learn how to um, invest your money. Look at how your money can make money instead of thinking about what's the next outfit maybe, or spending ridiculous amounts on things that won't give you a return on your money. I would say think about investment and think about being smart with whatever money you make. And you don't need to have a big amount to start investing. Start with small amounts, because
Mm-hmm.
but start thinking about it and educate yourself. I'm still learning, but I know for sure that I had to change how I thought about things in that direction, right?
Mm-hmm.
And always be prepared for anything. But I think that's one advice I have. And believe in yourself, because until you believe in yourself, and it takes time and it can be scary, but give yourself that opportunity. And after that, I think you have to learn to be your biggest advocate. If you really
Mm-hmm.
want something, be persistent, get others to see how you think. That can be difficult at first, especially if you're used to other people deciding for you, or if there are pressures of whatever kind. But I think I would just say, like, financial independence can save you so much. I have seen way too many people that I know who are in marriages that they can't leave because you know they don't, like, what are they going to, like, it's difficult because they're financially so
Mm-hmm.
dependent on their
Yeah.
husbands and their partners, and it's difficult. And I've seen a lot of cases where even if they do end up getting divorced, and after their parents pass away, their family feels like they're a financial burden. And I hate
Yeah.
that. I don't want to see women
Hmm.
go through that. That's why I'm saying be independent and try to, I'm still learning on the best ways that people can do this, but I think you have to take care of yourself and think about how you can do this and how you can grow in your
Hmm.
careers and in all of these different areas. I think that is so important.
Okay, yeah, great, definitely. Thank you so much, Masha. I think we're at the very end of our conversation. So today was definitely a powerful conversation. We talked about like how a woman can get independent living in Pakistan. Financial independence is the key, like Masha already explained right now. So thank you, Masha, for joining me today. It was amazing. I hope I can stay in touch with you and have another session in the coming future. So yeah, that's it from my side.
Thank you
Thank
for
you so much.
having me.
Yeah, definitely.
Have a good one.
Okay, sure. Okay, bye.
Bye.